Yes. Call the meeting to order. A couple things real quick. Director Coughlin is via Zoom, and Director Jerry Barron is out, and JB has his proxy, correct? Yes. Okay. Stand for pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the minutes, August 22nd, regular board meeting. So moved. Second. David, Jeff, thank you. Anybody see anything to be corrected? Conversation? Nope. All in favor? Kathleen? Aye? Aye. Okay, we'll take it. September 19th work session. Approval of those minutes. So moved. JB, Jackie? Any corrections or communication, conversation on that one? Nope. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, joint advisory reports, rec. Game time.
Meeting September 9th, 4 o'clock. Tom provided the update on the renovation of the gun range. Jessica Anson provided the latest available Trailblazer usage statistics. Liz Howie introduced herself as our latest committee member. Jessica Anson led a discussion about adding a side gate to the Branchwood pickleball courts. Excuse me. It's budgeted for 2025, I assume, or that was her comment as well. Tom Judson reported that Joan is retiring towards the end of 2024, and he indicated that a successor has not yet been named. Amenity reports, all amenities were found to be in great condition with the following comments. Metfield trim on the fitness building at the front is peeling. Loch Lomond rec area and Branchwood complex trails, tree down on the fence in the dog area, and wildlife is doing some excavations in the playground. Blowing Springs and Gear Garden, the water station needs repair or painted. Lake Avalon, the board needs attention on the fishing dock. Lake Ann Park, 3 canoes and 1 pontoon with outdated stickers. However, they had warning notices posted. London Park, where the creek meets the lake, needs to be dredged. Tanyard Creek men's restroom needs maintenance. And of course, Alan, our assigned amenity for that, provided the Tanyard Creek Volunteers Fall Project list. The staff reports, Rick Eccles, August Ranger contacts at, let's see, 8731 versus last year's. And I don't have last year's number, but it is up from last year. John, trap and skeet usage is up 50%, as well as 12% increase in sold rounds. Jessica, Joan was not able to attend. Jessica announced upcoming events, including the Flea in the Park, Haunted Mini Golf, and Pups in the Pool, which has already taken place. 1,000 fobs have been sold. The docks damaged at the marina are in the last stages of their repair. Our next committee meeting is October 14th, 4 p.m. in the boardroom. That's it.
Thank you. I would just encourage those watching when they have questions about the gun range with that update to watch y'all's Facebook Live.
By all
because
means.
you're providing that to
Yes.
the meetings each time, and there's a lot of questions about that, so they can talk about that. Yeah.
It's on.
It's on.
It's on.
Thank you.
And I think we're having a tour come up in October sometime.
October
as well.
15th at 3 o'clock.
Yep. Good, thank you. Tom, you have Lakes?
Okay, Lakes, Rick Eccles updated the group on continuing efforts to establish native aquatic vegetation utilizing fenced-off areas where grass carp cannot eat the vegetation. Plans are to expand this test to determine successfulness of the program. Rick also published harvest recommendations on bass in the 10 to 13-inch range, along with recipes to encourage additional harvesting. POA continued efforts to eradicate excessive grass carp. Committees discussed discussed Powerboat Expo request and voted to not move forward with the proposal. Reasons include timing, number of powerboats operated on Loch Lomond, and limited availability of docks, which could lessen the availability to POA members. Lake Norwood will be lowered this winter beginning November 4th and allowed to refill beginning March 3rd. The committee discussed the possibility of lowering Loch Lomond next winter beginning fall 2025. Final decision will not be made until the spring of 25. And that's it.
Thank you. Ms. Ruth, golf?
Okay, September 11th meeting, we're going to start with Darrell Muldoon's golf rounds. August was ended at 25,101, up 1,997 over last year. Pro Shop ended this month at August at 107% to budget, which is pretty darn good. Year-to-date rounds were 148,007, up 5,447 over last year. Darrell said we had a great August, both the rounds played and the Pro Shop sales. He would like to thank Graham and his crew for the hard work they had in clean up the damage from the storm on all golf courses, especially Highlands that was hit the hardest, and it was hit hard. Range buckets are down due to the closure of Tanyard Creek practice facility for its remodel, and the range buckets are 33,734, which is about half of what they've been. October 22nd is the open or the tour at Tanyard Creek, at 3 o'clock. Graham Kornmeyer, Country Club, Dogwood, Highlands, Kingswood, Burkesville are scheduled for green aeration this week. Tees and fairways will be fertilized in September and October to strengthen the turf for the fall and the winter. Colorant, which is green in appearance at the Country Club, Kingswood, Dogwood, and Scottsdale, will be applied in the fairways and the tees to warm the soil surface, provide more aesthetic appearance over the fall and winter months. It's both to look good and it will help over the winter kill. Expansion of Country Club number 4 green is underway and increase the size of putting surface by 2,000 square feet. And it will be out of play for a while. Soya sprigging at the Highlands. They put 3 different levels on. The final third is closest to the green, had triple pass. This is the ideal rate to establish the size of grass sprigs. It's about 90% covered after 12 weeks. This test was conducted in the summer months. Best time to sprig it is in March or April for best growing conditions. This should improve the growing conditions as well. If the soya replacement is approved by the board in their budget, Highlands would be chosen as the first sprig. In March through July and August of next year will be closed to allow the grass to grow in. Carts would be on path until the grass is completely established. Tanyard Bermuda sprigs are established or are being mowed at desired heights. And cart path survey was revealed. Keep carts on path at the Country Club in Scottsdale from middle November to the end of March was 68.8% agreed or strongly agreed, 25.5% disagreed or strongly disagreed. Allowing blue flag golfers to take carts off path at 90-degree rule, 55.3% agreed or strongly agreed, 30.4% disagreed or strongly disagreed. We asked for strict enforcement of the blue flag rules. The committee unanimously accepted this as a survey results and will put that into implementation. The next meeting will be October 9th, right here in the boardroom at 4 o'clock.
Thank you, Ruth.
Comments?
Beth, financials.
All right, we're going to go over August. Looking at the consolidated overview for just the month, revenue beat budget and prior year coming in at $3,709,000. Expenses were lower and therefore better than budget and prior year. And EBITDA was $723,000, which was about 400,000 better than budget and 500,000 better than prior year. Looking at it year to date, revenues at 27 million is better than budget in prior year by quite a bit. Looks like about $1 million better than budget. Expenses were also beat budget and were a little bit more than prior year, coming down to EBITDA of 3.8 million, which was about 1.7 million better than budget and about 800,000 better than prior year. And we continue to have a good year. Looking at the POA only without water, revenue, again, beat budget and prior year. Some notable variances better than budget for the month was golf fees, investment income, facility use, and assessments were all better. Worse than budget was food and beverage, but that was due to the delayed opening of BV 65. Without that, having been in the budget, we'd have been better than budget. Boat income was also 14,000 worse than budget. Looking at the operating expenses for POA for August, they again beat budget and beat prior year. Better than budget in August was salaries and wages and sales tax rebates. Worse than budget was maintenance and repair grounds. We had to spend quite a bit on tree removal due to storms. Maintenance and repairs equipment was 19,000 worse, and equipment over 500 non-capital was 35,000 worse, and that was also due to the storms. Cart charges were hit by lightning. Looking at POA only year to date, revenue again beat budget in prior year. Cost of goods sold was a little bit more with the increased revenue, and expenses was also beat budget and just a little bit more than prior year, coming down to EBITDA of 1,054,000, which is 1.1 million better than budget, and 700,000 better than prior year. So looking at water only, year to date, water's revenue of 8 million is better than budget in prior year. Cost of goods sold is coming in better than budget in prior year, even with the increased revenue. Expenses are better than budget and a little bit more than prior year, coming down to EBITDA of 2,786,000, which is 564,000 better than budget and 144,000 better than prior year. And looking at just the month of August, revenue for water was 1,164,000 better than budget, just under prior year for the month. Water sales were better, capital buy-in fees, and new service connections. Looking at operating expenses for the month, 388,000, which was quite a bit better than budget, a little bit more in prior year. Meter installation materials was better than budget in August. Worse than budget was credit card charges and interest. Looking at cash, we have 2,987,000 in water operating, 1,039,000 in water reserves, 2,569,000 in POA operating, and 1,068,000 in reserves, for a total cash of 7,664,000. And coming down to the one pager, you'll see the POA without water, the year-to-date variance EBITDA of beating budget of 1,091,000. Over on the left, you see water beating budget year-to-date of 564,000. Most of the departments are better than budget year-to-date, with a few are worse than budget down at the end. Again, maintenance and construction, lakes and parks kind of hit by the storms, food and beverage with the delayed opening of BV 65, and central administration is just various they think, are catching up with the golf fees, but they're doing good and catching up. Weather related, yes, thank you. We did not borrow any more on the loan in August, and we've already talked about the cash. Any questions?
Thank you, Beth. Next is open forum. Anybody in the back want to speak? Bruce? No. And it's good to see you though, Bruce. No emails, right? Okay. So let's skip the responses and we're gonna go straight into the next agenda item, and we're gonna deviate from the actual agenda because we have a walk-in from Tom.
Okay, so on your desk or on your workstation, you'll notice a memo that I put together. I sent out an email earlier this week based upon the discussion that took place at the last work session. Doug and I developed a potential addition to the policy, the changes that we're looking at for policy 2.09, policy 2.11, and bylaws section 3. And what this would indicate is all these areas have to do with board eligibility. And the discussion was about the usefulness or the benefit of serving on a committee prior to serving on a board. So this would be a recommendation, not a requirement. So what it would indicate would be, while not required, members evaluating whether to run for the board of directors are encouraged to consider serving on one of the 3 joint advisory committees prior to applying to run for the board of directors. Prior service on a joint advisory committee will provide the member with practical experience and a working knowledge of the administration of the association. So, as I indicated, this would be a recommendation. If someone, had not served on a committee, we would not block them. We're just encouraging them. So, if that's the case, if the board, I think it'd be a good discussion point of the board. I was trying to take an idea that they actually created. If that would be the case, on the policies that we're going through for the first reading, which is 2.11, 2.09, and bylaws, we would ask you, when you're making the motion, to add the term "as amended," and that would fold in, and we would insert that into it. And so I'm going to then transition into the policies. So this is in addition, this is so forth. So the policies, for viewers at home, we encourage you to watch the video from earlier this month, the Rules and Regulations Committee meeting, where we go over this in much more detail. We also go over a lot of these at the work session. So if the board goes through this at a rapid clip, it's not because they haven't been aware of this. They've discussed this previously at 2 additional meetings. So I just want to make that aware, because sometimes people will only view the regular session, and then the board kind of goes through an issue very quickly, and it makes people concerned. I'd like to point out some changes quickly. And yeah, if you could turn that on, that'd be wonderful. Thank you. Policy 1.03.4, we kind of rewrote that one. This is the Charitable Giving Committee policy. This was created back in 2017, and I think Bruce, our guest, who's here, was actually part of this discussion way back in 17. After working with this policy for a number of years, we felt that we needed to make some modifications, and we worked with the Charitable Giving Committee to create these modifications. So we did not create these modifications in a vacuum. It's based upon experience and working with the Charitable Giving Committee. So this revised policy is available on our website. If someone at home would like to review it, they can. But I just wanted to kind of explain what the general idea was. Okay, so that's one. The next thing is, if you viewed last month's regular session, you'll notice that several of these were up for a first reading, and for this meeting would theoretically, you were expecting them to be up for a second reading, and we actually made some additional modifications to this. And I explained this at the work session, but I'll go over it again. This is policy 2.09. So I was reading an industry article about board members and how to make sure you have as strong a board as possible, and it had a number of interesting points to it. And so I presented this article to Doug, and we talked about it, and then we thought that it might be worthwhile, and we went to the Rules and Regulations Committee and said, hey, I know we just did the first reading on this, and we wish we would have I wish I would have read this article a month ago, but it didn't come out prior to then, so I couldn't have. And so here are some of the changes additional changes that we are suggesting, which would require this policy to go all the way back to the first reading because they're fairly material. So the first addition would be, candidates must be a member for at least 1 year from date of purchase of an unimproved or improved lot. And we talked about this last week. The POA is a $40 million a year corporation. It's pretty complicated, and having someone with a 1 year of service we felt would be helpful. This point was discussed at the work session. There was not 100% agreement. Sandy voiced some concern, which she may or may not bring up at this meeting, but I at least wanted to say that it was not 100% in favor of this change. The next one was the candidate cannot be a party of an active lawsuit against the association. So, anytime we have a lawsuit, which right now we don't have one, but there's times when the board will meet with the attorney, and the attorney will explain the strategy of the case, give us updates, and for the opposing side to be a part of that meeting would be clearly a conflict of interest. And so we recommended that. Now, key word there is an active lawsuit. It wouldn't prevent someone that previously had filed suit against the association. Then we recommended a modification where they cannot be convicted of a felony in the last 10 years. And this was kind of a hard one to talk about because clearly any felony of any sort is not a good thing. But we want to make sure that we write the policy in such a way that it's reasonable and defensible. And you could contemplate someone that maybe when they were a teenager got a felony for doing something stupid, and now they're in their 50s or 60s, they served their time, and now they're in their 50s or 60s. Should we still hold that against them? Is that logical? Is it reasonable? And is it defensible in court? And we determined that 10 years was reasonable. I think also Jeff made the point that chances are any candidate that runs would there'd be at least a few, if not a whole bunch of property owners that would do a little bit of a background check. So if the felony was truly egregious, I'm sure that social media would come to the rescue and make everybody aware. So we've recommended that we make these changes, and so it impacts all three of these policies and no other changes. So what we're recommending is that For the first policy, the 1.03.4, if the board likes that, that would be go through for the first time. And then for 2.11, 2.09, and the bylaws, the walk-in memo with as amended would be the recommended motion. And then finally, we have several motions for minor changes that are being made to policy 2.10, the declaration summary, the articles of incorporation summary, and the bundled policies. All those have to do with addressing Blue Crane is now the new Big D developer, and the changing of my title, and all those would be for a second reading. So a little bit of a whirlwind there. But once again, we encourage the viewers at home to watch the prior videos to get full context.
Thank you. Do we want to start with 1.03.4? I think we have pretty much a consensus based off the work session and the general session, or the closed session, that we all agree with that one. Make a motion on that one, and then we can discuss 2.1109 and the bylaws.
I move to approve the changes to policy 1.03.4, charitable giving committee. This is the first reading of 2 required readings.
Thank you, Jeff.
Second.
Thank you, Deborah. Any further conversation on that one? Yes, David.
I would move to amend to include the paragraph on committees.
That's not on that one yet.
No, it's on the next.
This is the charitable.
Already included in the packet?
This one is
This
has
one's
to do with
just the charitable giving
committee.
Okay,
But hold that thought.
I will.
Okay.
It's a really good thought too.
It's a good one. No other, yes, Deborah?
I just feel like the tweaks, if you will, that were made to the charitable giving are very beneficial, and I think that our membership would be very happy with it. So I think it was well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? All in favor of approving 1.03 for the first of the second, of 2 required readings? All in favor?
1.03.4.
What, 4, sorry.
Aye.
Thank you.
And JB has 2 hands up because she has the proxy.
Yes. Director Barron's proxy. Okay. 2.1109 and bylaws. Is there any further discussion on that? Yes, go ahead, Sandy.
I'm still a no. I think we live in the land of the free. We live in America, which is the land of the free. And what's that saying? No taxation without representation. And I don't think we're going to waive their assessments for the first year, are we?
Right.
So I don't think that we should tie their hands and not allow them to run. I think the membership should decide who gets elected and who doesn't. So, and like I said before, it could be 2 years before somebody could be on the board, depending on what month they moved here, by the time the election process goes through. So I'm not in favor of that one.
Okay. I agree with if they move here in July, it's almost a 2-year cycle. I think I'm with you.
I have a question. Would you be more interested in if it was changed instead of a 1 year, they must be at least through 1 election cycle?
Well, again, it depends when they move here, but you think about it, most people, by the time they would go through the election and get elected, by the time they are on the board in May, they're most likely have been here a year. I just don't think there should be a restriction. That's almost the very first thing I look at when I look at the candidate profiles. How long has this person been here? You know, do they know what the community is all about? Are they, up on the subjects? And so I think the membership is going to take care of the issues that you're concerned about. I don't think it needs a written policy.
May I comment?
Yes.
Sandy, I've thought a lot about this since you said that, and I've gone back and forth. And at the end of the day, I think you're right. I think our membership will figure it out. they're the ones making their decision. They're the ones that are picking someone to represent them. And just in watching the elections over the last several years, I think they do a fair job of weeding out things that may not be in the best interest. So I would be with you in this one.
Thank you, Deborah. David?
I don't have any problem with this because it's a recommendation, it's not a requirement. Anybody who wants to buy a lot on January 1st and immediately run for the board is allowed to do it. And like you say, the membership will figure it out. But this is just something for reference for people who with good intentions that they go, oh, that is a good idea to go that way.
David, I don't think maybe it was clear, but the way it's written now, we still have the 1 year requirement, and we're just talking about adding this recommendation of during that year serve on a committee.
It's a requirement.
So the 1 year service would be a requirement. The other one about the JACs, that's a recommendation.
Yep.
The 1 year, the way it's presented would be a requirement. So if someone had not purchased 1 year prior at the beginning of the election process, we would notify the elections committee and they would in all probability reject that application.
So when do you say that the election process starts?
When the packets become available, isn't it?
Yes, it's January, according to the change, it's January. We put the packets out in December just because we'd rather have it out early, but the official election process begins in January.
So they would have had to have been a property owner
As of J1, basically.
as of the date that the packet is required to be submitted.
Submitted, not distributed. Very good,
Exactly.
okay.
The deadline for submission of the paperwork.
So that deadline now currently falls in February?
Yes.
Yes.
So that's the cutoff date.
Should that be written into this? What is
Yeah.
considered the election cycle?
Well, that date changes.
Well, that's true.
It's not a fixed date.
But could you put, this is your gig.
Yeah.
But could you put from the year from the date the packets are due, or obviously you legalize it, but I don't know. I don't know if we need to do that or not.
To muddy the water more, I guess we can talk about election cycle versus a year, but I'm not opposed to taking out the year requirement, but I definitely want all the other changes in there. I think
Okay.
they're very,
Correct.
very important to have in there. This one I can live with if there's a couple of board members that are having angst about it being a year. I agree our members will. I like it in there, but I would support this whole change if we took it out, if that was necessary, if we felt like we wanted to be unanimous on this.
And Sandy has a great point. I mean, it's kind of like the felon part that you talked about. The membership weeds that out pretty quick. You know, not to be rude, but that's what happens. Kathleen, did you have anything to add to that?
No, I just think being on a committee really set me up to join the board. And so I definitely agree with that recommendation. And while I see Sandy's point, I do agree with the year and moving forward with that.
Okay, thank you.
So the board, you kind of have three options here. Okay, so you could vote that you don't want to make any changes to the policy. You could vote to make the change with the 1 year requirement plus the other ones, which have not really been discussed, so I think those are fine. You could make that. You could make that with the 1 year requirement and the JAC service, or you actually another one, you could say, I like the JAC service, but I don't like the 1 year.
How about just table it?
No, I think we can get, I think we just gotta go around the horn and see where, I think you just, I'm not trying to tell you.
You're fine, you're good.
get everybody a sense of where everybody stands on really the two issues, is the 1-year service and the JAC. And from that, we can amend it fairly easy, because we are either gonna keep the provision, strike the provision, add the provision, and that's the 1 year, and not have the JAC requirement, or include it.
But the JAC part is just a recommendation, not a requirement.
That is a recommendation. The
So
other
I
one
think-
is a requirement.
And so, real quick, I mean, I think we're all talking about the 1 year is the one that, which is a requirement, right? Everything else is good, right? Everybody?
Well, I didn't love the JAC either because it's an appointed position, and I think there have been members that have told me they've applied and have never gotten on, so.
And that happens.
I think that's, but, you know, as long as it's clear that it's just a suggestion.
Right.
And you remove the 1 year, then I will vote for the JAC, but otherwise I'm a no.
Okay, thank you. Sir?
We talked about, you know, what is the cutoff date for 1 year? Can you quickly give us that language and what, to say it's the date when the packets are due, or?
He's a lawyer, it's never quick.
Well, I think that was.
Well, that's what I thought. I thought in order
His
to get
answer
that down
is
for our
it
purposes
depends.
today.
His answer is, it depends.
I think your first step would be to go around and see if you want the 1 year or not. If you do want the 1 year cutoff, then I can craft language that would be,
Right now?
probably not right now, David, I'm sorry.
That's why I thought.
I work on a billable hour system.
That cost you $200.
Yeah, you don't want to hurry it. You want it to be right.
Yes.
I'll make a comment that, you know, I was all for the 1 year. I think it's a great idea. I don't think 1 year's that long to wait, but it's not that big a deal for me that I feel like I'm gonna put up a battle and try to, you know, I would absolutely go along with just doing the recommended for the JAC and let the year slide.
Okay.
I'm in favor of the 1 year, as long as it, you know, can get the language down that it's from the date, the election starts when the packets come in, that day. That's been there for 1 year. You've got a year under your belt, so I'm in favor of that.
I guess the way I look at I agree with Jeff, I feel the exact same way, but the way I understood the question about the 1 year was if we start to make it an election cycle. I felt like the wording of the 1 year is from date of purchase, and that's very clear. Is that not clear? It was just the election cycle verbiage that was going to be confusing.
I actually think it's a really good point of what is the 1 year measured from. I think that's why I'm trying to pull it up right now to see how it's. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out exactly what the phrasing is.
Yeah.
Well, it says from date of purchase,
Yeah.
but what is that compared to?
It's compared to the date. You have to be eligible member by the day that your packet is due.
So I think that
So if you,
that has to be added.
if the packet is due on March 1st and you bought your property on March 2nd of the year before, you would not be eligible for the date that the packet's due. If you bought it on April 30th, you would be eligible because the packet is due on March 1st. But because that date is fluid, that March 1st date, I'm using March, but it's in February.
Yes, sir.
I'd have to look at the language and make sure that I'm given enough leeway.
We don't necessarily, or do you want to go that deep before we take a vote? Okay, okay. I think it's either we do it and change it a little bit, or we don't do it. Is that?
That's my recommendation. You get a consensus on the 1 year. If you want to do that, let me take it back, or
Right.
take it back.
Yeah,
and
I
fix
think,
it.
why don't we get a consensus on both things, and we'll pull back all three so that we can, let's get a consensus on both issues, and then we can figure out if we can move forward or not at this time.
Both issues.
1 year, JAC.
JC, I think we're all.
JC.
It's a recommendation.
Well,
I think we're all
you're
good with
still,
that.
you're gonna vote. Yeah, right, okay. All right,
Good. Okay. And then the real
1 year.
question is the 1 year.
all right, so can you,
And if
you're not voting, but can you give me a show of hands so I understand?
we can go around and just, I mean.
Okay.
I will vote to not pass it with the 1 year in it, so I would like the 1 year taken out.
Got it?
no matter how written.
Correct.
I still want the 1 year. I think it's fair to I'm looking at the candidate, thinking of the candidate.
I'm fine with taking it out.
Microphones.
Oh. I'm fine with taking it out.
I want it out.
Kathleen?
I'm fine with leaving it in.
I would like to see it taken out.
42.
I would like to leave it in with the condition of define the date, nail it down.
You're keeping count.
Like I said, I am for leaving it.
44. And you voted twice.
I voted twice,
Okay, it's 5-4.
and he voted just now
You said leave it in?
to leave it in.
The 1 year.
Yes.
5-4. Right, you said no, no,
3.
no, and no.
No.
Jason said no.
It's 5-4.
Yep.
Okay, so
Go
since
back.
both are in, I think it would be best at this time that Doug and I pull this back, go to the Rules and Regulations Committee, work on the wording for the 1 year restriction, and then re-present at next month meeting. And this would apply to policy 2.11, 2.09, and the bylaws, because all of them are impacted by the same one.
Yep.
And I vote to table this until next month, until Rules and Regs can work with it with Doug.
David motions to table these 3 policies. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Jeff seconds. All in
All in
favor?
favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye, sorry.
And I also think it'd be a good idea that Jerry hopefully will be here,
He will.
and everybody else will be, at next month's, since it's always a little bit awkward when you have a split vote and you're using a proxy. It's just, it's official, but it's a little bit awkward. So they were then asking for a second vote, and you have to do it one at a time, please, on policy 2.10, the declaration summary, the articles of incorporation summary, and the bundled policies.
All right. Anybody want to?
So I'll make a motion approving the new policy 2.10, meeting to elect the board chair and vice chair. This is the second reading of 2 required readings.
Thank you, Jackie. Second. Jeff, thank you. Is there any further discussion? We've discussed this one a few times now. Any further discussion on that one? Nope. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passed. Declaration summary notes. Need a motion, please?
I move to approve the proposed changes to the declaration summary notes. This is the second reading of 2 required readings.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Deborah. This one also we've talked about multiple times. Any further conversation on that one? Nope. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
9-0. And I believe this is the last one, isn't it? Motion for the bundled policy changes. Articles of incorporation.
Summary.
Summary, yeah.
I make a motion approving the proposed changes to the Articles of Incorporation summary notes. This is the second reading of 2 required readings.
Thank you, Deborah. Jackie, thank you. Again, any further communication, conversation? No? All in favor? 9-0.
Aye.
Thank you, Kathleen. Now can I do the bundle policies, Doug? Thank you. Need a motion for bundled policies, please.
I move to approve the changes to the bundled policies. This is the second reading of 2 required readings.
Thank you, Jeff.
Second.
Thank you, Deborah. Any further conversation on that one? Nope. All in favor?
Aye.
9-0.
And
Thank you.
going back, when Doug and I present the other 3 next month, we'll have copies in both ways. It's such a close vote. In case there's any changing of minds over the next month, we'll have it both ways. That way, It's not, it won't be a vote as amended. It'll be, I like version 1 and I like version 2. We'll present it both ways to the board.
Perfect, thank you. Anything else before we go into the lengthy announcements? My favorite part. Nope. All right, to wrap it up, the announcements. The Lakes JAC meeting is October 9th, 2 o'clock here in the boardroom and live streamed. Golf JAC is at 4 o'clock on October 9th in the boardroom and live streaming. Rules and Regs meeting is October 10th at 1:30 in the boardroom and live stream. Board of Directors GM meeting, which is a closed meeting, is October 10th at 2:30 here in the boardroom. Recreation JAC is Monday, October 14th at 4 here in the boardroom and live stream. And the first community tour of the pistol and rifle range, yay, October 15th at 3 o'clock at the gun range, 1605 Rocky Del Hollow Road. Board of Directors work session is October 17th at 9 a.m. here in the boardroom and live stream. And the first community tour of Tanyard Creek, which will be fun, is October 22nd at 3 at Tanyard Creek, which was 10 Nature Trail. And then October 24th is our next regular session here in the boardroom or live stream and live streamed. Is there anything else? Nope. All right. Meeting adjourned.